Welcome to another session of the Wise Asylum. How are you this week? Hope you're doing well. The Royal Tribunal of False Judgment, pushing Noahide. What? I'm using his work, but I've also installed my own because it carries us into the next subject matter, which is about another leaping Lord. Okay, so it is really important because we're starting now to see how they're doing it, who is doing it, okay? And I can see it now so clear, so much more clear, and so much of the Freemasonic stuff that I'm not giving it any quarter, but that's been a diversion at all points in this mix because the real power side of this is coming out of the Holy See, okay? Roman Tribunal False Judgment, pushing Noahide. They are spying on society and meddling in people's personal lives. They work closely with the Talmudic Sanhedrin in Israel, with Chief Sephardic Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef and Chief Ashkenazi Rabbi David Lau. Yosef and Lau are extremely evil and work with the Kabbalistic witch Esther Hayat, the Chief Justice of Israel's Supreme Court. The Roman Rota also works with a covert evangelical council of Christian pastors in the United States, with members like Franklin Graham and Joel Osteen. Members of the Supreme Court are involved. Chief Justice and Jesuit adjutant faculty member at Georgetown University Law Center, John Roberts, is head of the Supreme Court in the United States. New Zealand's Chief Justice, Sian Elias, is involved, and she's a member of Queen Elizabeth II's Privy Council. So you can see we're Privy Council level. So let's have a look now at the person. So who would want to prorogue Boris so that he couldn't take us into Brexit, as he was voted in to do by the people of this nation? It couldn't be anybody that's up for England, could it? No. It couldn't be anybody that's up for Scotland, because by definition, if England went back so soon, Scotland, and indeed Wales. So this power to shift us back into Brexit and to prevent us in the first instance completely breaking from it is a lady called Baroness Brenda Hale. Now, I'll let you decide whether she's a lady or not after. And she hails of Richmond. So she doesn't hail there, but that's her seat in the United Kingdom's, and she's the United Kingdom's president of the Supreme Court. So this lass is running the Supreme Court in the corporate side. Remember, we discussed when we looked at that, no points of law were brought into that mix. They were all commercially handled in the commercial jurisdiction, which is why it managed to overturn what would be seen as English common law and the law when dealing with and telling the Prime Minister what he can and can't do, especially when it relates to something he was voted in to do. So she's head of the Supreme Court, and Hale is responsible for preventing Boris Johnson from proroguing Parliament. Which was to move us from Europe against the wishes of the people that voted Boris to execute Brexit. This can now be seen to be an agenda of the Roman Rota. Okay, so the Roman Rota, it's like a major judicial power, and it's telling everything and everybody what to do. They operate under canon and Talmudic law and think they have the right to know every single detail about a person and use their massive intelligence networks to gather information on those they've declared as heretics. Okay. So in it clever how they've used the Roman system, just as we're seen and known at the Reformation times, that this Babylonian priesthood are using it because it's the power in the world. It's clever stuff. They operate under canon and Talmudic law and think they have the right to know every single detail about a person and use their massive intelligence networks to gather information on those they've declared as heretics. So this takes you back to the still in function, I forgot what it's called actually now. Something to do with about faith. It's the old Inquisition system. It just changed its name, didn't it? And was it Benedict that were edited at one point or something like that? So it's still going on, and this is how they've shifted it. So instead of being judged on gospel law, obviously over the centuries, it's now shifted without anybody knowing under Talmudic law. They do this in order to create a false sense of self-righteousness as they go after anyone that opposes their corruption. They're completely corrupt psychopaths filled with self-righteousness that falsely accuse and condemn innocent people which oppose their corruption. Members of the Roman Rota and Supreme Courts are professional liars that are extremely ruthless and conniving. They are also false accusers and lying hypocrites and involved in framing the victims and getting paid to do it. They torture innocent people and then laugh about it. They are completely sadistic. Now, Rota. So we're looking at the Rotary Club. Okay. No, okay, I'm not saying if your grandma's in Rotary Club. But the Rotary Club is a global network and it fronts this part of the priesthood. Offers out the law. So Freemasonry does invite the 21st degree pushing knight, no hard judge. Through the Catholic system, they're doing it through the Roman Rota. Okay, because none of us had a clue that the Talmud had took it over. Canon Talmudic and Sharia law systems are the same concept and used for condemnation of anyone who opposes their fascist regimes. If a person gets condemned under their secret courts, they issue them finance persecution, which often leads to death or imprisonment. Persecution is often through the use of electronic weapons or directed energy weapons, well that is today. And he put a lot out about these systems and who actually controls them. I think that's probably why they knocked him off. They're involved in all torture of innocent people. Persecution is also carried out by paid members of secret societies. And the one that the police run is, the Yanks call it gang stalking. But it's actually just a massive network of informers that they've managed to call inside, obviously, to get out and go into prison. So that also is run through the secret societies, the anarchists, all these so-called guys that think they're free. You're all connected. Mainly here to the Masonic networks and the Jesuit networks. And that's where your control is coming from. The United States is currently under canon and Talmudic jurisdiction, which is why most Supreme Court justices are Roman Catholic or Jewish. All Supreme Court justices are trained in either canon law or Talmudic law. The British Crown manages Talmudic law, which is covertly taught in law schools like Yale and Harvard, which were issued by the British Crown. The royal family run Talmudic law in the United States and use it to persecute those they have declared as outlaws. The word Rota, so it's mimicking the common law, the old common custom that England was set up on. And of course that transferred to the United States. So they mix the two jurisdictions and we haven't got a clue until you do. The word Rota means a wheel or a rotary. The Theodoli family oversee the Roman Rota and have a wheel on their coat of arms. The Odescalchi family are heavily involved in canon law, and in the 19th century the Jesuit priest Carlo Odescalchi was the auditor of the Sacra Rota Romana. Cardinal Benedetto Erba Ocellini was a canon priest. Now, another thing and reason why I brought in the Rotary Club is because I don't know whether you've heard of a guy, an Italian guy called, I couldn't remember his name last time. It's on tip of my tongue. So when he came out, and I will remember it at some point, and I'll mention it, but when he came out at the beginning, he was saying that the Rotary Club was behind the 9/11 attacks. And he meant it, because that's what he went on about for at least the first year. Because he were on the run from them. He were a DJ, and he operated all over the world as a DJ. And he came out and he gave a lot of data, which you tend to do a bit like I did when I left the mystery school. You're full of data, you need to get it out somewhere. So I could recognise that he were actually operating on that sort of, the angst characteristic. So I took on board a lot of what he said. And he was very adamant that the Rotary Club was behind. So what that means is that the network that is the Rotary Club was the means by which they could actually set it up and carry it out, and then hide it afterwards. Yeah, and then from that they set up these wars. So that is very important, that the Rotary Club is understood at its higher level as to what it actually is. Today's Prince Carlo Odescalchi has been made Rome's top judge because he's a psychopath with an extreme god complex. Scalchi refers to scales, a common symbol used for judicial systems. The Giustiniani family married with the Odescalchi family, and Guisto means good or just, like justice. They're false justice, though, of course, and we're going to have a look at this with some diagrams that I've put in, some images. The Odescalchi and Pallavicini families manage covert weapon systems like HARP, CERN, electronic weapons, and satellite radio weaponry. Now, I spoke often of the Pallavicini. They're a Holy See family, and they operate for the foreign heirs. And they were behind the House Stanley that put the Tudors on the throne here. And they were also the financiers of Elizabeth I to build up a navy to go and pirate the Spanish galleons that were pulling all the gold and silver out of South America. So that, we've looked at Pallavicini, so you all must be aware that Pallavicini are a very important family as relates to these isles. It was Breakspear up until the Stanleys were raised to power as the kingmakers, but the Breakspears left these isles in a power manner and went over to China. And so this is going back 1400s, maybe even end of the 1300s. So that was the power play we've explored. So it's no surprise to get Pallavicini in this mix. So they operate or manage covert weapon systems like HARP, CERN, electronic weapons, and satellite radio weaponry. Maurice Monnier is pro-dean of the Roman Rota today. Monnier is similar to the Italian word moneta, which means money. So he's in a money wheel. These false judges involved in murder and persecution are paid very well to ruin the lives of people. This group is involved in ordering the persecution of hundreds of thousands and murder of tens of thousands of people. I mean, this plays out. Trump, it's all Catholic when you get into the back of it, isn't it? You know, it's Trump's, it's the same. They all attend these yearly annual Catholic, because it's way above Catholic, it's this height of stuff. They're all playing for this same network, all of them. You know, they're all operating for it. So if we look at these images, you've got, so if you get back into probably Roman language to law and what we see as the Bible, the old term was phas, and that meant God's law, and jus meant man's law. And phas, it says that which is right or just in the sight of God, which is the Creator God, we would say, that Genesis 1, as opposed to the God that formed the garden and the idea of the human in the garden. Yeah. So we're back. It shows again there's a distinction. As distinguished from just, which more frequently refers to that which is right in respect of man-made law. So just is man-made law, phas is Genesis 1, which is very limited. There isn't any, apart from go forth and create in the image of the Creator. And you look out there, you look at the nature, and it's absolutely beautiful. So obviously it was created with love. You know, so, you know, Creator says, in love, if you're doing that, you're with me. If you're not, you're hiding behind all these instruments, you're on just, which just is law, the Latin word for law or right, and just is canon law, a rule within the Roman Catholic Church. But it's Holy See law, let's be quite honest about it, you know. So that there has introduced us to Baroness Brenda Hale of Richmond, the woman behind the preventing of Boris carrying out what he was voted in to do, which will take us to Brexit. And now, again, because we've gone through the Indian Raj side of things, you've got the other Lord, Leaping Lord, ensuring that what Truss did, which has put us one step back into Europe under PESCO, and our military is now doing what the EU tells it, and also creating a terrorist attack that we or the UK government could become responsible for. And we investigated the movements of all the assets of the Vatican being pulled into the Vatican Bank, did we not, in September? And now, by the Native Americans in Canada attacking Charles, it could put all our assets. Yeah, we've looked at that. So you can see this picture. You can see it forming itself correctly now. And, you know, you're not tied off on the diversions of, everything's Masonic. You know, everything's not necessarily Masonic, because the Masonic lodges are made up in general of Protestant men. They have no idea they've been co-opted from a long, long time ago. You know, 1700s, when it became an aristocratic cult-like system, as opposed to just a guild of well-versed builders. So, you know, we've looked at that. So now we'll have another look at this. So now we've looked at one Leaping Lord, and now we're going to have a look at this Baroness Hale of Richmond. The one who stopped Brexit. The one you can say is going to be fully behind Sunak and the other Lord in making sure we go back into Europe, yeah? So you can tell this one is very high level. I'll see if you work it out yourself, but this one's way more high level than the guy we looked at before. Baroness Hale of Richmond, Category 2, remunerated employment office, profession, etc. No permanent judge. Non-permanent judge. Court of Final Appeal in Hong Kong, and President of the Supreme Court of the UK. Hale stopped Boris from, I've added this today, from proroguing Parliament's removals from Europe as determined by the people of the British Isles. She did this on behalf of the Roman Rota, the Rotary Club, said to be responsible for 9/11. Right? So this is who this one comes via, because she's Yorkshire Dales lass. Right? Yorkshire Dales is Jesuit country. Okay? Not Catholic, Jesuit country. Okay? So it's coming, this woman is coming via or direct from the Roman Rota. Self-employment as a writer and lecturer, including as consultant editor for LexisNexis. Category 5, land and property, 2 houses in North Yorkshire, DL10. Category 10, non-financial interest, visitor, Girton College, Cambridge. And that is all she has about her interests. Okay? That tells me, you look at the level of power, that's deliberate. So whereas the other guy's a showman, he likes his glittery stuff, they're using him to front, to hide the real ownership. Whereas this one, she's hiding. But what power she has, she's gone against England, Scotland as nations and stopped our parliament, which isn't our parliament, is it? Because it's a bankrupt entity, from taking us out of Europe. Keep that in mind, this is what this woman is. Biography. So I picked up a biography. It says, a former academic lawyer, lawfully former and judge, was born and raised in Yorkshire, the details of which she discussed with the Yorkshire Post in an interview last year. Lady Brenda Hale was born in Leeds towards the end of the Second World War and grew up in Richmond, North Yorkshire. One of 3 daughters of head teachers. Even from her days at the tiny little Richmond High School for girls, she was making a little local history, as the first girl to go to Cambridge University and the first to read law. After qualifying as a barrister through a self-taught correspondence course while working at Manchester University, she chose to devote herself to academia. But her work there was of such note, she says, it brought me to the attention of the Lord Chancellor, and she was tapped on the shoulder to become a judge. Alright? This girl's serious bloodline. It would appear she's coming via the Jesuit side of things. So, you know, you're looking at Belfour, all those kind of geezers. Leeds massive, which was massive. You know, a major powerhouse was Leeds for this system. So this girl is nothing. This girl's blood. Even then, she continued to smash glass ceilings until she was appointed Supreme Court President in February, which left her delighted and proud, but not at all fazed. A long-standing champion of diversity in the judiciary, she became the first female justice of the court. In October 2009, was appointed Deputy President in June 2013. During her time as Deputy President, Yorkshire-born Lady Hale ruled on numerous high-profile cases, including the BREXIT appeal, which we've discussed. Now, you've also got to understand that the last incumbent president was Neuberger, and we explored him and his sister-in-law, who's big into twisting your melon man. Okay, she's the one behind the House of Lords Committee on Behaviour Change, yeah? And her brother-in-law headed the Supreme Court at the same time to make sure nothing she was doing was rebutted in any commercial court. Speaking to the Yorkshire Post last year, she said she recognised that widespread calls to take big institutions to the north can inspire a new generation and help close the divide with the south of London, which hosts almost all major UK institutions. I would dearly love us to sit in the north of England, Lady Hale said. We have a lot of cases that come from the north, so if we were to sit somewhere central in the north, I would love to do that. But I doubt it will be practical when I'm around. I might start raising the idea. It would certainly make travelling to work easier for Lady Hale, who has stayed in Richmond for much of her life, and speaks of how her beautiful Dale's surroundings have played a major role in her career. Yeah, I bet you're up there at every mass. I think there's something in the air in North Yorkshire that makes one possibly want to, I certainly wanted to, work hard and wanted to get on. School was very encouraging to me. I'm not sure that it was encouraging to everybody, but it was very encouraging to me. Of course, the good thing about the school was that Richmond is such a beautiful place that the teachers stayed. So we had this very stable group of mainly amazing ladies who were very good teachers and gave us a very good grounding. There's something about growing up in a beautiful place. I think it's good for the soul. Asked whether some good old Yorkshire Gert has helped her reach heights of fuel as a managed, she replied, I suppose so. Yeah, because you're a born and bred muppet puppy. Flossie. I wouldn't know about that. That's for other people to say. The Yorkshire Dales are, of course, Jesuit countries I've put there. So again now, so I'm going to start highlighting them in red as we may encounter these leaping lords as we move forward as they tied into this absolute garbage. So I have only one thing to say to you folks, and I have to say it again, and that is, till the next time.